The hour of 6 o'clock has arrived, so we'll call this meeting to order. Thanks for those who are joining us this evening. Thanks for those who are joining us online. Dave, if you just keep an eye on those who are with us online, in case they need to comment or raise their hand. We welcome you to our city council meeting on the 25th of February of 2025. We'll start our meeting this evening by asking Council Member Dowpaz if you'd like to lead us in a thought, an invocation, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Dowpaz.
I would like to do an invocation today. Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we are able to join here in a city council meeting. We're grateful for our residency in North Ogden, and we're grateful for the recent precipitation and snowpack that's in the mountains. We ask that we can have a great deliberation tonight, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Dowpaz. We appreciate that. We'll now let's go into our consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the discussion or action to approve the following city council meeting minutes. January 21st of 2025, January 28th of 2025, February 4th of 2025, and February 11th of 2025. It's nice to have minutes so quickly after our meetings. Council, I believe that Ryan sent out the minutes to you in advance, asking if you had any amendments to the minutes. I'm assuming those have been sent to her in advance if you have any, but if not, that would be the time to speak up if there's any changes you need to make to the minutes. Are there any? Okay, I would look then for a motion to approve those minutes as referenced. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Council Member. We have a second to that.
Second.
Councilmember Pulver, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, then we'll take a voice vote on approving those minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll now enter into our active agenda, which involves public comments. Those who would like to make a comment online or here in person. If you're here in person, please step up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden. And if you're not familiar with the rules of public comments, I'd ask you to limit that to 5 minutes at the most. So if you have a comment, please step up to the podium and give us your name.
Hello, my name is Troy May. I just recently bought a house on 100 East on the Pleasant View North Ogden border. I own United Defense Systems and Security Masters. I've noticed that there's a lot of vandalism in the parks, and we recently deployed 70 cameras in Plain City parks. And they don't have their internet up yet, but we'll be monitoring all their parks to try to reduce vandalism. And I just thought, maybe it's something you guys would be interested in. We'd be willing to put a system in place for free. I can go pick one up right now and put it where your biggest problem area is and start deterring right now. So if you're interested, let me know. I'd love to help.
Is it Troy? Did
Yes.
you say? Troy, on the end here is Dave Espinosa. Dave is our Assistant City Manager and also Public Works. And we do have a lot of vandalism. So maybe you could get with Dave or call him and set up an appointment, whatever works for you. And we can see what we can work out. But yeah, unfortunately, everybody's having vandalism. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's a great resident to have. Appreciate that. Brenda Ashdown, I live in North Ogden. It's my same old complaint, but I'm going to say it again. I sent each of you an email together. I sent each of you an email separately. I want to make sure that John gets told, I appreciate that he answered my question. Appreciate that very much. Christina Watson replied to my email, which I truly appreciate. And Christina Watson, Mrs. Watson, I want to say that the difference from your first couple of meetings to now is night and day. You can tell you have invested yourself. You've put the homework in. I really appreciate that. The rest of you, not so much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else this evening? All right, anybody online, John? Okay, we'll move on to item number three.
There's a raised hand by Susan Kilborn.
Oh, okay. Susan?
Happy Tuesday, Susan Kilborn, resident. I want to thank the Northview Fire Department. I just noticed today on the North Ogden One Facebook page that there's going to be on March 1st from I think 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Presentation on emergency preparedness that covers a real broad umbrella of items, and just kind of to want to let anybody know out there who may be watching or listening to check that out. I know I certainly am interested, and thanks again, Northview Fire Department. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else? Dave?
No, sir.
Anyone else here? You'd like to step up here and state your name and if you're a resident of North Ogden?
Hi, my name's Lisa Coleman. I'm a resident of North Ogden. I just wanted to know more information about the status of the police chief and if that will be discussed at this meeting.
We don't comment on ongoing investigations. There is an investigation taking place. The police chief is on administrative leave, but we do not comment on ongoing investigations. So you probably won't be hearing any comments from us this night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else? Okay. Then Scott, I think if I have this right, you'll be leading us in a discussion or an action to consider a legislative application to rezone property at 2666 North, 400 East.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So yes, we do have an application for a rezone from the residential city center zone to community commercial downtown CCDT. The applicant Trevor and Catherine Osborne. This was before the Planning Commission on February 5th, 2025, and that was our formal public hearing. As a reminder, legislative items are recommendations from Planning Commission, and the ultimate decision rests with the City Council here. So for that item, this is one that I don't want to spend a ton of time on. I don't feel like it needs to. It's right adjacent to our other commercial zones, and immediately across the street is a mix of commercial and then multifamily residential as you go up Washington Boulevard. Historically, this home has been used as a variety of home occupation businesses, and currently what they want to do is convert it into office space essentially for legal counsel and then potentially architecture. So it would be a lower use intensity than some of the past home occupation businesses that we've seen there, and really just fits in well with the neighborhood. So Planning Commission found that this did meet the general plan guidelines for a zoning and land use change, and then also unanimously recommended to City Council that the rezone be completed from residential city center to community commercial downtown. And we do have Trevor and Catherine Osborne here, the applicants, if you have any questions for them.
Okay, Council, do you have any questions of the applicants?
Not
Councilmember?
the applicants, just a comment.
Okay, Councilmember Delpas, go ahead.
Yeah, I watched the deliberation during the Planning Commission, and it was pretty straightforward. One thing I want to point out is the neighbors in that block, they usually show out in force if there's something they're not happy with. And there was one person that showed up and had some pretty positive sentiments, and it's the neighbor that is exactly against this property. So it seems like a really good fit, especially considering it's right on the edge of the downtown district as it is right now.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dalpaz. Councilmember Watson.
After being on the general plan committee, I appreciate that, the comment from Mr. Hess that this fits in with the general plan's idea. Moving the line by one property is not going to impact the main idea of the general plan. So I support this rezone request as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Councilmember Pulver?
Yeah, I think the planning commission went through this pretty strong and looked at all the potential issues, fencing, concrete pad that they're going to put in, future use of it if it's possible, what happens, for the next phase. So I think the zoning in itself is the correct method of what we're talking about moving forward. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Looks like you're okay. All right, we're gonna have a voice vote on this if there's no, a roll call vote on this if there's.
First.
Yeah, I was just gonna say on which thing we're gonna vote, but if you would like to go ahead first, I was just gonna state how we're gonna vote
All right.
tonight.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Pulver. We'll go to Councilmember Watson and come back to Councilmember Barker, Severing, and Dalpass. Now, would you like to make a
Yep,
motion?
I'll make a
Okay, go
motion.
ahead, Councilmember.
I'll make a
Barker.
motion that we approve the rezone property at 2666 North, 400 East from residential city center to community downtown zone.
And let me give you the ordinance number on that. It's 2025-02.
That's ordinance 2025-02.
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Muchly appreciated. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none then, let's start Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Severing,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're also going to hear from Scott Hess again. This is a discussion and our action to consider a legislative application amending the Cooperstown. Oh, did you want to make a comment?
Just one comment. As we've gone through this process, we've recognized that it has taken a lot of people, a lot of time to deal with us. And we appreciate all of the time that you all have put in. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Scott, if you'd like to talk to us about an action to consider a legislative application amending the Cooperstown subdivision development agreement, we would be happy to hear from you.
Yep, thank you very much. So this is an amendment to the development agreement for the Cooperstown project that was approved through the Master Planned Community Zone MPC CT. I think it has its own unique little modifier there. So each MPC, whether that's Village at Prominence Point, Patriot Point, or Cooperstown, all went through their own unique processes. So in this case, the rezone to MPC came with a development agreement, and the MPC code for us, our Master Plan Communities Code, outlines a little bit of a different entitlement process for MPC projects than for standard projects. So we felt like looking through the MPC code and then what we typically do, that the safest method for doing any development agreement amendment in this case would be a recommendation at Planning Commission held with a public hearing, and then bring it to the city council. So you've had there has been an opportunity for a discussion with the Planning Commission on this project. The interesting thing about the development agreement is that it essentially keeps everything whole for what North Ogden was originally going to do with the project, but it ignores everything south of the right-of-way line of 1500 North, which is in Ogden City. So 3 years ago, this was approved, and staff has worked diligently, and I'd say the staffs between Ogden City, North Ogden City, up and down everywhere. That's both, planning and then in the executive or administrative city administration. It's all been really good. We've tried really hard to work together to move that boundary line and put the project all in one city. And ultimately, Ogden City, for, failure to move that item forward or failure to vote, it was no longer being considered. So what we have is the city boundary line, which right now is just, there used to be a little old blue house there. It's really hard to describe unless you're standing on the sidewalk of where Ogden City and North Ogden are. But the 1500 North line will end up being the city boundary with, we're going to confirm this via survey now that the entrance into 1500 North is put in place, but we think Ogden's or North Ogden City will own essentially the entire right of way of 1500 North. There's a question mark on whether we'll have the southern sidewalk or not, whether that'll be Ogden City's responsibility or ours over the long run. But ultimately, the way you can think of it is, as soon as you hit 1500 North Street on the right side, that's where North Ogden begins. The development agreement amendment being so minor that it just cuts out those apartment projects or those apartment buildings that were on the south side of 1500 North. But the commercial component, timing of the project, required amenities, the sidewalk improvements, 1500 North Street, doing a subdivision, getting Walker Cinema to agree to allow 1500 North to continue to 1525. All other items still stand in the project. And we feel as staff, and then the Planning Commission felt after a pretty lengthy conversation, that this is really the best way to, the best compromise in moving a good project forward, getting it hopefully up out of the ground. And these are units that would have been much more affordable had we constructed, been able to construct them 3 years ago. But this represents one of those moderate income housing projects or more affordable housing projects that's been on our moderate income housing plan for several years now. And with that, the applicant Danny Wall is here to help represent the item. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take any questions. Otherwise, that's the recommendation.
Council, do you have any questions that you'd like to engage in with the applicant or Mr. Hess? I see none.
I have one.
Oh, Councilmember Dalpas.
Can you remind me, the commercial building, was it commercial just on the bottom level or is it fully commercial? I seem to remember that it was bottom level commercial and then possibly housing on the top, but I could be mistaken. The one on the corner of 1500 and Washington.
I'll need to review the development agreement to answer that, unless Danny Wall remembers.
Maybe he could just confirm that pretty simply.
I don't remember what the development agreement says, but the way it's designed is just a commercial building at this point.
All commercial.
Any other questions?
I just have a question.
Councilmember Severie.
So just to clarify, this is not going to affect, I remember us making an agreement with the developer that they were going to permit us to put a North Ogden sign. We're still okay with that? Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Good memory, Councilmember Severie. I think they're making a contribution to it, a certain amount, as I recall. Councilmember Watson.
Do you have an idea of where that will be now that this is cut in half? Anyone?
I don't know if that's been discussed. I honestly don't know where it would be located. Have we had any discussions about that, Scott, that you
No,
remember?
we were, as Eric Casperson, city engineer, and I looked, because the commercial building, there is some room on the north side of 1500 North next to Washington Boulevard that could be a location for a monument sign that's outside of the Clearview Triangle. So that's probably the most likely place for a welcome to North Ogden or some sort of combined sign, whether it's like welcome to North Ogden plus the monument for the commercial building. But that's where I would envision it being.
And I think that would be just fine for us.
Okay. Any other questions?
And JD,
Councilmember Pulver?
I'm sorry, to clarify your question, the master plan approval just says commercial one building. So it's not really clear on whether that was just ground floor commercial with residential above, but the original project just had one commercial component and then the rest of it was the apartments.
Cool.
Sorry.
Okay, Councilmember Pulver.
I was told to bite my tongue, but I'm going to ask one question that might So, so do we charge North Ogden or charge Ogden City for the snow plowing that we do for the road if they develop the south side? It's our road, so I'm just asking those little goofy questions that if they don't want
I
to,
don't think there's been a discussion
I'll
on
bite my
that,
tongue
but
again.
it'll be a public road. I think we currently plow roads that aren't in the city, but Shorty could have that discussion if necessary to do that.
Yeah, and to that point, there's still some questions about what happens with culinary water billing, the stormwater, and secondary water billing, because the project is kind of divided in an interesting way now across the street. So those will all be decided through the improvement drawing process. I don't know that it really changes anything on the development agreement, which was meant to be total project type, the colors, architecture, site plan, total units, that sort of thing. But you're right, this does raise some interesting questions.
Yes. Apparently it's in there, so they probably ought to get culinary water there and all the utilities ought to be
And if,
billed by them.
if it's entirely possible that they'll be completely separated, and if not, then we have agreements in place with several locations of water that goes outside of the city, either to unincorporated parcels or right, near Harrisville and Pleasant View. So that's a possibility as well.
Okay, any other questions? All right, if there are none, then I would look for a roll call vote in the order we talked about earlier. This would be to an application amending the Cooperstown subdivision development agreement, primarily to modify the boundary. There is no ordinance number on this, but I see it's just an amendment. So is that correct?
I think it'll just be the signed amendment. That would have been a John question. I'm not sure if it needed to have an ordinance number or if it's just the new amendment, I'm sorry, the new development agreement number, which are usually A and then the number it is.
Yeah, I don't have any of that information on my shell, so I
Yeah,
can't answer that question. But I
if there's
imagine
a-
we could proceed
Yeah.
with approving that with the necessary amendment number attached.
Yeah.
If necessary, but generally those are presented to us in person before we approve those. Are usually placed before us when we're doing that.
And if I've made that error, we'll prepare that in the next 2 weeks and we'll just bring you forward the signable document. But so the council could
Yeah.
either hold that decision and or make the decision contingent upon making sure you've got a.
Yeah, I believe, and I go to our recorder, but generally when we're approving an amendment to an agreement or an ordinance, we have that before us, and so the agreement would usually be up here showing all the changes. So I would suggest we postpone this for approval. It doesn't look like there's a problem by any means, but I don't know if John's available. Is that who you're texting?
Yeah, I was trying to get a hold of him.
Dave?
I did receive a text from him about the sign. It's
He's-
located on the site plan on the north end, actually, of the project. So there is the location.
So he says just an agreement number, no ordinance.
Yeah, we don't have an agreement number and we don't have the agreement in front of us showing what the amendments are. We've discussed them.
Scott's diligently getting it.
Same agreement number from before.
I mean, it would be the same agreement number from 3-4 years ago, but as an amendment, right? I bet we can find it real quick. We can move on to the next.
Well, the next thing is basically reports.
I thought it was then.
While you're looking, can I just ask, it's on the north side, the sign is on the north side of the property, Scott, is that what you were saying?
That's what John had sent. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the site plan.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Chris found it.
do you want the agreement number? Is that what you were looking for?
That should be it. And we just do it as an amendment.
It's in in the packet, it says A01 2021.
That's the original amendment. And then
It's original.
And then if it's like First Amendment or A01, we haven't done any in 2025, so it could be A01 2025. I don't have that agreement number.
I'm pulling up the draft right now.
But like I say, we usually as a council, I think that has to be before you And you have to see what the changes are on an amendment to, this is a legislative application.
Yep, it's just, and there's not one that's on the redlined agreement. It just says amendment to development agreement or agreement for Cooperstown apartment made this day.
Was this going to hold you up, Danny? I mean, it looks like it's a technicality. Be okay. Why don't we postpone this, council, till we get our hands around this?
Yeah, my apologies.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, if you find it before the end of the meeting.
Could we have a motion to postpone this item?
Mayor, I move that we postpone this Cooperstown Development Agreement Amendment discussion.
Thank you, Councilmember Delpaz. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that.
All in favor of postponing this item to our next agenda meeting, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. All right, I'm going to take a prerogative here just for a moment. Brenda, I responded to you and I just confirmed that each council member received a copy of that response. I sent one and they got copied on it. So I don't know where it got caught up in the system, but I specifically responded and sent each council member a copy. So I don't know, we'll look and see where it got hung up, but I don't want to be singled out as not responding when I did, because each one of these council members received a copy. So we'll see what happened. So, well, we'll see if it got caught up somewhere in our system.
I can confirm that I did not personally respond to Brenda's email,
Yeah.
but I didn't find it necessary just because I didn't want to trip myself up in any unnecessary words since it's an active investigation.
Yeah.
Just
And
didn't
that's why I
make
sent each
didn't
one
make
of
any
you,
sense.
that's why I sent each one of you a copy.
No,
Uh,
if you're going to talk to me, can I respond back?
Yes, sure.
I understand that I don't need an answer from everyone, but if you want me or any other resident to feel heard or appreciated, the least you can do is answer an email with, "Thank you. I got your email. I see that you got an answer." Phil, I hope it don't embarrass you, but I did the same thing when he was in here. He finally got it. He would answer me with, "Thank you. I got your email." He didn't always answer with an opinion or an answer, but I received a response so that I at least felt important enough, because you say, come to the meetings, join us, share your stuff. But one of you, and I'm sorry, Mayor, if I didn't get it out, I'll look at my
I don't know where it got
but
caught up,
only
but I did
one of
respond.
you made that effort. And all of the rest of you, except for maybe Chris, know exactly how I feel about this. And I'm sorry, I am not the only one in this city that feels ignored. If you care about the city, which you say you do, which is why you're here, you will have some type of a response to the residents. All I'm asking, simple, thank you.
Yeah.
That is not difficult.
My response was much longer than a thank you, but I did
I will
respond.
check my junk and see if
But I think
I
just
got
one
it.
point of reference, just for me anyways, is don't make it a forward of a forward of a forward, because that's all I got from you. And that's why I didn't reply, because I'm like,
I sent one to everybody. I
Right.
went on the website, sent one that's supposed to send to the mayor and everybody.
Mhm.
Then I sent each of you one individually. That's probably where you're getting the forward of the forward from.
yeah. And
Because I sent it individually. Next time I will not send it that way. But my understanding is when I send an email to all of you combined, Mr. Call reads it and decides who it goes to. And I wanted each one of you,
We all get them.
Yeah, if it goes to CCMM, just to clarify, that would go to all council members and the mayor if you send it to CCMM. Now, I will tell you, and Bryce's looks like he's down there looking at things. There was a period of time when people would send me an email and it got caught up after they changed. And I think there was something actually posted on Facebook that said, hey, if you
there was
tried to-
something on the website for quite a
yeah,
few
if you
weeks. and I
tried to
appreciate
contact
that.
the mayor, but I did respond. I don't know where it went,
I will see if I can find it. If you did, then I apologize to you, but I don't to the rest of you. I'm sorry. This is your job. And if you want me especially, which maybe you could care less because I have no prominence in this city, but if you want me to recommend to anyone who says, who do you think? And I get comments. I have people who comment to me and they either agree or disagree with my comments, but they will say, if they ask me, who on the council would you recommend I vote for? Mrs. Watson, at this point, would be the only one. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. I have been through this with you guys.
Thank you, Brenda.
Enough.
Thank you.
Enough.
And I wish you would acknowledge the fact that I did respond, whether you got it or not. You just said, well, I can't help it if you got it. I responded. Let's move on. We have council member reports this evening. Council member Pulver, do you have anything you'd like to discuss?
Yes, sir. So just a couple of things. I want to kind of give kudos to snowplow guys. I know it was kind of a crazy little season. We're off again, on again. But I think that there's a couple times I was like waiting, and I started, shoveling my driveway, and I'm like, I know I'm going to finish and they're going to come by. And that's usually what happens. But anyways, it was great. I think and like Dave was saying too, he kind of told me that a few snowplows took some hits because it was such a heavy snow. And I think that's just what happens sometimes. And I think, but they do a really good job at repairing what they can and getting back out there. So also sewer lining project is about 50% complete. There were the utility fee that we're trying to figure out for streets should be coming next month. And then also that's a project, but the Washington widening project. And it's gone through design and ready to go out to bid. So that's good news. And I want to, while I still am talking, I know there's a lot of people asking questions about the right turn lane too. So if we can know about that soon, so I can answer questions.
Let's put that on the agenda. Eric has that all engineered and it's approved by.
I just didn't know if we
UDOT.
had funded that. That was the one question
Yes,
I had.
we have funded that.
Okay. Cool. All right. That was, I think, and then since I still have the floor, the Citizen Budget Committee met for the first time last week, and I thought that was pretty awesome. We have some good personalities. I think that's the right way to say it. And several new folks that really want to dig into things, and I'm excited. So that's good.
Thank you. Brenda, you can quit looking. I just found out where it is. No, the mayor doesn't know how to type very well, so I'll ask for, but it's right here. I sent it to G Snail, GM, instead of Gmail. But well, once again, I apologize for being imperfect. But it's right here. I made the effort, so I apologize. Anyway, let's move on. Councilmember Watson.
Yes, I received messages from Ryan in the Recorder's Department. Says she's prioritizing comprehensive records management across all city departments. And in preparation for the upcoming Shred Day, it'll be scheduled to align with the Spring Cleanup Week, which is May 8th. And the recorders are collaborating with each city department to ensure records are current and properly maintained in accordance with the State of Utah General Retention Schedule. And then Katie didn't have anything to share from HR, and Justin with the pool and recreation, he says that their lifeguarding class started today. I'm like, when did he send this? He sent this today. The lifeguarding class starts today, and the pool office floor is near complete, and the LGI course began last week. So they're accepting applications for the summer season as well as group reservations already. So if you have questions on that, we can connect you, but things seem to be going well there. That's all I have to share.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. Dave, do you have anything to report to us on capital projects that we need to know?
Yeah, so just a couple things. The 1700 water line project will start on March 15th. We will definitely get that out and they'll get flyers out to all those residents as well as getting everything online. It's going to be a big project, and so there will be some pretty big detours, but we will have them moving quickly. We've put a lot of stuff in place for that to keep moving along and going. The Waterworks Park is starting to ramp back up now that the warmer weather's hitting. They're going to start building that structure. They're going to actually build it in place at Public Works, and then we'll transport that over and place it at the new Waterworks Park. Orton Playground is almost nearly taken down, the old playground, and ready to put the new playground up, as well as some fencing. We're going to be redoing the bridge there and then putting some new benches as part of all of that playground stuff over there. And Councilwoman Watson, she mentioned it, but the RDA stuff has kind of kicked off for the pool. So we started with the floor. The SCADA equipment is getting ready to get installed down there as well. The lighting, I think we have it scheduled for next month. So that's all starting to ramp up now as well. And I think that's all I got.
So did we figure out if it was the cheaper liner? The liner company that, remember we were talking about how,
Oh, so no, we're still working with those guys because of we still got to pick the toy to pick the liner type of thing. So we're kind of held up on that a little bit. Correct. Yeah, I'll be right after we close. So
Okay. Anything else, Dave?
no, sir.
Okay, we'll move on then. Public comments. Anybody online? Looks like we have a hand raised.
No,
Oh, no
It's,
hand raised.
it's the mic off.
Okay. We'll move on then. Any comments from mayor, council, or staff? Scott? Kenneth? Bryce? Joyce? Any council member Watson?
I just wanted to point out that, Brenda, you caught me on a good day. I'm far from perfect. But there's been a lot of communication this week, that has been hard to reply to, more than this whole year, I would say. And the main thing though that I wanted to say is, I wanted to find out an update or see if we can get on the agenda soon. I'm getting really concerned about Cherry Days and the plan for that. It's almost March.
Good question. I met with Dave and John. So they'll be presenting a plan, I believe, at next council meeting.
Yes.
So there is action taking place moving forward on that because it is approaching us quickly. You're correct. Anyone else? Councilmember Severing?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and I agree with Sandy. Sandy had expressed some concerns that I've had a lot about the, what is it called? The place where you can stop and get food.
Tri-City?
Yeah, Tri-City.
Exchange?
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, every time I drive down there on Washington about that same time, I'm slowing down no matter what, anticipating somebody coming out. But are we really not able to do anything much there to try to prevent more problems? I notice it over at Kurt's. They've got a ton of cars parking over there. I think I've still seen people park at Best and try to run across the road. I'm with Sandy. Sooner or later, somebody's going to get thumped there and it's not going to be a pretty sight.
Lieutenant, could you look into the fact of people crossing not at a crosswalk? Maybe we could, but I think Sandy had another good point. A lot of people were saying the city's responsible. We ought to put a crosswalk, we ought to put lights, we ought to do this. We ought to pay to move it. It's really not a city activity. We surely want to keep people safe. So Lieutenant, maybe if you could, during that Friday exchange, be down there to educate people that crosswalks are in place and we do have a light there and they should use that. Other than that, I know Mr. Hess, there's some non-compliance there. You ought to probably bring that non-compliance to the council and they can make a decision on enforcement there. So if you would do that, and Lieutenant, if you would, on Friday during their activity, help people understand that there is dangerous situation there in crossing the road and that there's a light, I believe, there that can be used. So let's start with an educational process. And then if it doesn't improve, we can go from there. Okay? Any other comments? All right, then I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. This meeting is adjourned.